Welcome to Thursdays at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My name is Jesse Ott, the host of this podcast, which is all about beverage innovation. I talk with innovation pioneers from agriculture to glass. This week, I spoke with Thomas Angel, co-founder of Altitude Beverages in Bend, Oregon. Thomas and his wife started Altitude Beverages because they wanted to create a coffee alternative for those that are in the CBD and Better-for-you beverage space. Their coffee alternative drinks are all Nitro cocktails that you actually shake before opening. They are smooth beverages mixed with Oatmilk, my favorite, 30 milligrams of CBD, and adaptogens, which assist you in getting your day started. These are feel-good ingredients like lion's mane for focus, Chaga for immunity, and Reishi for gut health, just to name a few. They didn't stop there. Next was all about the afternoon happy hour time you spend with your loved ones discussing your day. They were wanting a non-alcoholic option that helped you wind down. So, just like getting your day started, they wanted to help you wind down just the same. They created 3 very different mocktails that have 20 milligrams of CBD and are all based with white tea and a few bubbles. These adaptogens are for a nice recovery to the end of your day with GABA for calm, L-theanine for relaxation, and 5-HTP for serotonin. Thomas had a very unusual journey into the beverage space, and his story is one of a kind. I don't know a lot of Americans that speak Chinese, let alone one that would end up working for the president of Boeing living in Beijing, China. He tells his journey working for Boeing for over 10 years and why he and his wife started Altitude Beverages. Thank you for listening, and be sure to subscribe to be notified of all new episodes. Welcome to Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My name is Jesse Ott, and I have an exciting guest this week, Thomas Angel. How are you doing, Thomas?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me, Jesse.
Where are you calling from today?
Today, I'm actually in Issaquah, Washington. We're on the road right now, but normally based in Bend, Oregon.
Bend, Oregon. And you said that was how many elevation? How many feet above
We're
sea level?
almost 4,000 feet. So yeah,
Okay,
up in the mountains of Central Oregon.
Nice. Okay. So how is that in terms of like the Willamette Valley and all the
Yeah. So here in the Pacific Northwest, we have the Cascade Mountain Range that kind of bisects both Washington and Oregon. So like where I'm at here on the west side of the Cascades in sort of the Seattle area, it's very similar to west side of Oregon. It's very temperate weather, kind of notoriously gray and rainy. Whereas,
cold and humid.
yeah, actually, yeah, it is that wet cold.
I'm from Iowa, and it's cold up there.
I get you. But the minute you go over to the east side of the Cascades, whether that's in Washington or Oregon, where we live, it's very similar to Colorado. So 300 days of sunshine, high desert, very dry, a little bit more extreme weather, right? So in the summer it's a lot hotter, and in the winter it's a heck of a lot colder and a little bit more snow. So very very different, topography, geography, and weather patterns.
Which is perfect for growing grapes, right? For winemaking.
It is on the west side, yeah, certainly. Like Willamette Valley, oh, the wine there is phenomenal. I mean, if you're a Pinot Noir fan, that's kind of the mecca.
It is the mecca, absolutely. So, what are you doing in Washington today?
We're making the rounds. So
is it a distribution run or
we usually try to do everything all at once. So
that's good.
Yeah, I mean, just to be time efficient. So we do have, distribution up here. We have, quite a few accounts, and then we used to also live in Seattle. So this was, our stomping grounds for quite a few years. So a lot of friends and family up here as well, in addition to some advisors and some investor meetings that we're having this week as well. So just trying to, kill 3 birds with one stone, sort of a situation.
So what made you move from Washington to Oregon?
Ooh, that's
Another
it's
podcast?
no, it's a long story, because I mean, really, we were, and if you had looked at my LinkedIn, we actually were in Beijing, China,
Yes, I can't wait
before
to get to
moving
all
to
that.
Bend. Yeah, so Yeah, we had spent many years in Seattle. I went to university here, started working for Boeing out of university, and had a lot of great opportunities through Boeing to live around the world, and just happened to be stationed out in Beijing for a couple years, and actually went from Beijing to Bend. So, happy to dive into the details of that. But the reason why
Yeah.
Oregon, I grew up in Oregon.
Okay.
Always was a huge fan of Central Oregon. Especially living most of my life on the west side of the Cascades, where it's kind of gray and rainy. Always yearn for a little bit more sun, but maybe not having to leave the Pacific Northwest. So,
A lot of
someplace
vitamin
like
D supplements.
exactly. You learn that pretty quick living in the Northwest.
Yeah, I remember with St. Michelle, I used to work with them, and anytime you had somebody move into the area, they're like, "Get your vitamin D supplements. Just make sure you take them."
Yep. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I
for
mean,
sure.
it's heaven on earth. 3 months out of the year in the Pacific Northwest, at least on the west side of the Cascades. The summer is unbeatable, but about
It's beautiful.
October through May is yeah. Let's just say it's a little gray.
Yeah, I remember going up there with St. Michelle, and I was talking to someone that worked at the winery, and he said we live for these 3 months of summer because they're the
Hmm.
most beautiful in the world, and they are. It's lovely. I got to hike and do a lot of fun stuff up there. So nothing short of cool activities for sure. But it's not all year round, unfortunately.
Yeah, but on the flip side of the coin, I think that's why there's so many successful companies in the Pacific Northwest because I think you're almost forced to just stay and innovate and build companies
Like
9 months
COVID,
out of the year.
in your house.
Yeah,
That's
might as well
true.
go start Microsoft or
Yeah,
Amazon or Boeing or whatever.
yeah, whatever. Something big. I love that. So you are from Oregon. Where?
Yeah, so I grew up in Portland, Oregon,
Okay.
and yeah, basically lived there until university. Went to Seattle University, small Jesuit school in downtown Seattle, and yeah, ended up you know partly because of what I was studying, partly because of my passion in aviation. Ended up in Boeing and spent almost 10 years there. Um,
So how did you get into Boeing? Is it through the school or through contacts or?
Yeah, it was a combination. I mean, Seattle University is kind of nicknamed Boeing University. Most of the people who go out and get like an MBA or a higher education degree go to Seattle University. It's right in Seattle. They have a great relationship with the company. So there was always, representatives from the company on campus. And, I'm always transparent. The thing that got me was these companies come onto campus and they try to incentivize you with food, right? You're a poor college kid, so
Of course. Food and free
Boeing
credit
had free
cards, right?
pizza.
Pizza. It'll do it every
Yeah,
time.
exactly, and yeah, no, it ended up being a fantastic opportunity for me. Got to live in 3 different countries and a couple different cities, and really amazing career opportunities. And as I alluded to before, ended up, in Beijing, working with the Chinese government, an incredible life experience. And yeah, it was kind of our plan for the foreseeable future until 2020 rolled around and there was this little virus called, coronavirus. Maybe you've heard of it. Um,
I just said it for the fourth time.
yes, and I'm sorry to hear about that. So, yeah, that was kind of the wrench in our plans, and ended up getting caught outside of China and couldn't go back, and kind of had to figure out what we want to do with our lives, and that's kind of the genesis of why we completely did a 180 in our lives and moved to Bend, Oregon, and started a beverage company.
Wow, that's fascinating. So let's go back a little bit more because I'm really interested in your career. So you're a student in Seattle and you got pizza bought for you. And you heard the spiel and they're like come intern or come work part-time or come like get started kind of thing.
Yeah, so it was kind of if you want to go far back, I had actually studied biochemistry, and everyone in my family's in the healthcare profession. Doctors, nurses, healthcare providers. And so, the path I was sort of set on was to go, to med school. And I was working at the hospital there in downtown Seattle at Harborview. I was pretty miserable, to be honest with you. Really just
What
kind
were
of was
you
like,
doing
oh,
there?
so I was working on a psychiatric study at Harborview, which is a level 1 trauma center. So you see a lot of interesting things there. And
That
yeah, I enjoy my classes. It's a very interesting path with biochem and pre-med and all that, but really wasn't feeling super fulfilled. So around it was my junior year, I switched over to the business school. And almost immediately kind of felt this like breath of like, oh, like, purpose and, sense of like, okay, like I'm actually, seeing something that I want to do 10, 15, 20 years down the road. And it was right around then that, as I mentioned, you had these companies that would come through the business school and, pitch, their company to go do an internship. And so Boeing was one of them. And, I just heard the people there talking about, their experiences and, the career opportunities they had. And yeah, so I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. So I did an internship there.
in
I
what
was
department?
So I started off in like the most like inner bowels of the company, working on basically an engineering team in Everett, and I'm not an engineer. So it was kind of like the operation side of an engineering organization within Everett, which is where their large production facility was. And so I'll be 100% transparent. The actual job itself was not very exciting, but
Right.
the location of where the internship was in the Everett production facility,
Yeah, the
which if
heartbeat
you
of
Google,
what's going on. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if you've ever had a chance to go and tour that facility, but
No,
it's, at least at the time, was the largest building on earth by square volume.
it's huge.
Um, yeah,
I've
you can
driven
fit
by,
like,
of course,
yeah, you can
during
fit all of Disneyland in it. It's incredible.
jeez.
And yeah, so that kind of experience
Huge.
really kind of just sparked my, my passion for, for the airplanes, for the industry. And you came back to the second internship, got accepted to a leadership rotation program there, and
Oh, very
kind of
cool.
just kept on building into my career there.
And so, did you keep moving around to different departments, or was there
Yeah,
certain
yes,
things that they were kind of not pushing you towards, but maybe helping you facilitate what you were good at and what you knew?
yeah. So I got lucky. I got to be part of a leadership rotation program there. As I started, straight out of college. So I rotated into 6 different placements within 2 years. So I did everything from financial planning to marketing to sales to operations. I got to spend 4 months in Italy, working on an inventory recovery project with a supplier there.
Really, that sounds
Yeah, just
interesting.
yeah, just all kinds of things, and the whole
As an
purpose of that.
intern or as a leadership, that's part of the rotation.
Yeah, part of the rotation. I mean, the concept was get you enough exposure into all the different areas of the company, both from a business unit and also from a functional unit perspective, to be able to exit out of it and have a holistic view of how the company runs, and be able to apply those lessons into the various parts of the company that you would go on to.
So, where were you in Italy?
We were in a tiny town called Grottalia. It's in Puglia. So if you know like the geography of Italy, it's like the heel of the boot.
Mm-hmm.
And
The
yeah,
assembly lines are made down there.
we had a major supplier that made the center section of the 787. And yeah, we were having some issues where we had took over their supply chain, and their inventory costs had ballooned, and so they needed some support to go in and figure out how to get that under control. And so yeah, so it was an amazing opportunity to go out there for 4 months and eat a lot of
Everybody's
pasta. And
favorite word, supply chain. Really? Ugh,
yeah, certainly
that's a
nowadays.
mess. Yeah. So that's really cool. So you got interesting exposure to it early on. So, and with the different rotations, you certainly got to experience different departments, which I'm sure helped create your fundamentals for your company too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just the opportunity to see how, a company the size of Boeing, at the time was, over $100 billion market cap company, Fortune 20 company, to see just how it's run from, business units. Obviously, in the Pacific Northwest, the main business unit is commercial aviation, but obviously defense and space, to, private aviation, general aviation. I mean, they really cover um, you know, the whole verticals of aviation. Yeah, no, it was a phenomenal experience. Absolutely, learned a ton. Got so much exposure in such a short amount of time,
And met a
and
lot
it
of
really,
people, I'm sure, networking. So you come
absolutely.
after Italy, you come back to Seattle then?
Yeah, came back to Seattle. Went into our. By that point, I had exited the leadership rotation program and went into our commercial headquarters building in Renton, and went into the core sales and marketing group, and started working with airline customers, and that's kind of what set me on the path towards living in China. um, I in full disclosure, I did study Chinese, so I
Okay,
had
well, there
Chinese
you
language
go.
capabilities.
That's pretty
But
cool. My nephew did that
yeah,
too. He spent a
okay, yeah,
semester
yeah.
over there. Loved it.
Yeah. I mean, same thing. Got to spend a semester in Shanghai, and so because of that, right? Once you have when Mandarin and Chinese experience on your resume, you always kind of get thrown towards
Hmm.
projects related to China, and so I started
Which is
working.
great.
Uh,
Now you get to finally use those skills. Like I'd have never used my French skills at all. And now they're almost gone.
yeah,
20
yeah,
something years
100%.
later.
Yeah, if you don't use it, you lose it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, so went from working with our airline customers in China to getting the opportunity through that, to actually go and live over there, and work
Who's
with
an
the Chinese
example of a
government.
customer over there that you were in touch with?
Yeah, so you can imagine any of the major airlines, right? Like Air China, China Southern, Hainan, the big three as they call them, to smaller airlines like Rayleigh, regional airlines. But at the end of the day, in China, whether you're those large government-owned airlines or even a small private airline, um, everything is ultimately managed by the Chinese government. So
Right.
it's a state-directed economy, and any imports, or for that matter, exports as well, are controlled by the National Development Reform Commission, the NDRC. So that's kind of where I came in, and worked with our organizations there to basically influence economic development and trade policy. Because even though our sales teams would go and work with the airlines on what their needs were for their fleets, based off of growth plans, passenger numbers, et cetera, new route openings, in order to actually get the approval for that for that airplane order, you had to work with the government to figure out how it fit into their 3 year, 5 year, 7 year plans, because these are incredibly expensive, large
Yeah.
pieces of the U.S. China trade relationship.
Absolutely.
Actually, at the time, and I still believe it is, it's the single largest dollar item trade items between the U.S. and China.
That makes total sense. So was the State Department ever involved in any of those things as well then? I guess it's kind
Oh,
of a
100%. Yeah, 100%.
interagency sort of, yeah. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sure
I
that
mean, this is obviously there's the Boeing view of things, right? What we need for our growth plans. There's obviously the
yeah.
airline view of things and what the airline needed for their fleet planning and their network planning. But obviously there was a lot of it that I mean, basically anytime there was major aircraft order announcements, it was usually executed at state visits. So whether that was the Chinese premier coming to the U.S. or the U.S. president going to China, so it was pretty cool, right? Incredible
Yeah.
experience to work on things that literally you having meetings at the embassy in Beijing, or going to DC and facilitating meetings out at the White House, and pretty impactful things. So really an incredible career opportunity.
Yeah, that is really fun. That is super cool. So, do you miss it?
Yeah, of course, obviously. I mean, that was my life for almost 10 years, and
10 years.
it was truly an incredible experience. I won't say that it's something that I don't miss at all, but at the same time, um, you know, part of the motivation, I've always had a very entrepreneurial spirit. I was the kid that growing up always had the lemonade stand, and even when I
Yeah.
was an undergraduate, I was always trying to figure out businesses to start, and had the opportunity pretty actually early on in my career at Boeing to participate in. I don't know if you've heard of an organization called Startup Weekend. Um,
Uh-uh.
yeah, check it out. It's pretty cool. Like, you basically go and you pitch an idea on a Friday, and by a Sunday, with the team that you build over that weekend, you pitch a minimum viable product to a small group of investor, service providers, and then you can get a little bit of seed funding. And
And
so I
didn't you
actually,
win?
yeah, I won one for a financial literacy app idea um, back in 2014,
Yeah, that sounds really
and
cool.
yeah, and it was one of those moments where it was like, I had just kind of started my career in Boeing. Yeah, I don't come from a trust fund or anything like that, so it was kind of those moments where I was like, all right, am I going to like quit my job and do this, or am I going to have to do what most people do, is build a career, build some a little bit of a nest egg, and then figure out how to go into entrepreneurship. And it was one of those moments where the idea, I liked it, but I didn't love it, and it wasn't one of those things where it's like, am I willing to risk it all?
Right.
But that itch never went away, right? It was one of those things where even with the amazing career opportunities that I had, you know I was always one of those people, right? You watch Shark Tank, you always
Yep.
kind of
It's
read
the next step.
TechCrunch, or
Yep.
and yeah, so that's ultimately, for me now, it's like, yeah, the looking back, the opportunities in a company like Boeing, and a corporate career like that, amazing, but the fulfillment and the kind of the risk reward that you get from entrepreneurial life it's addictive.
It is. It's fun. It is absolutely fun. I am 100% with you. I have so many ideas. That's another podcast. If anybody wants a load of ideas, I got them of all
Well,
the different things.
maybe
It's
that'll
so
be
much
a
fun.
Startup Idea Friday podcast or something.
Yeah, there you go. Startup Fridays. I like it. I'll have one for every day of the week. We're gonna do foodie on Tuesday, beverage on Thursday, start offs on Friday. I
I
like
like
it.
it. I like it.
um, okay, so you're over in China, and you said um, you left China and you couldn't get back in. Like, tell us more about that.
Yeah, yeah. So, obviously, coronavirus hit China a lot sooner than the rest of the world. So we
Right.
first started to feel the impact of it around Chinese New Year. So this was end of January of 2020, and yeah, at the time, kind of got stuck there for a little bit. If you can believe it, the whole sort of focus then was about getting medical supplies into China. And so Boeing had committed, very publicly to support, which
Right.
was, amazing, right? Donating masks and ventilators and medical equipment and PPE. And so, that was my job, to help coordinate that effort and bring all these things in, and, really incredible, effort by the whole organization, and, a lot of suppliers. And so it was a crazy, few months. And then in March, things at the time actually kind of started to get better, right? Things were kind of starting to open up in China. Life was slowly kind of trying to get back to normal. And
Yeah. See,
so there
that's
was
when it
this,
stopped for us.
yeah, well, that's when it started so it was the second week of March. And, things started to seem like on the up and up. And so I kind of had this window where I was like, oh, wow, okay, well, I've been working like basically like 24/7, for the last 2 months, trying to, coordinate all these efforts. and was like, all right, well, maybe this is a time to go out and, get a vacation, you know? And so my partner, my wife is Colombian. I'm half Colombian. So we're like, all right, well, let's go back to Colombia and, spend 2 weeks there and kind of decompress and, sort of just, get out of China for a little bit. Had been, super crazy, and
Yeah.
flew to Bogota from Beijing on March 13th. Arrived there on March 13th, and within 3 days, 4 days, they had a simulated quarantine in Colombia, because obviously that's right around the time when the rest of the world started to catch up with the virus. And
Yeah, Italy was like crashing. I mean, it was really bad over there.
yeah, I mean, it was a weird time, right? Where it was like
It
this
is a
sort
weird
of,
time.
yeah, just, uncertainty. And really the major impact for us was we ended up getting stuck. We got stuck in Bogota for 3 months. And they had completely shut down the country. All the airports are closed. And then they re-shut down China. So, yeah, it was this weird kind of moment where it was like, all right, what are we going to do with our lives? And continue to work remotely, for the next couple months. And eventually was able to take a humanitarian flight from Colombia back to the U.S. And about that time, we went to Washington D.C. This was June of 2020, and spent a week going to the U.S. Embassy, just trying to figure out, how do we get back into China? How do we get a
Yeah.
reentry permit? That's where our life was. That's where our home was. And yeah, at the end of it, they were just kind of like, hey, listen, like, unless you have, sick family there, there's no opportunity right now. Our recommendation is figure out a plan B. So we did. So we, coordinated a virtual move, got all our stuff back, at least on the way back to the US.
Okay, so you
Um,
were able to kind of close down everything over there and get your stuff back, because
yeah,
that's like, I can't imagine just not having access to my home. That
yeah,
must suck.
it was a weird and stressful time.
Yeah.
But relatively speaking, compared to what other people had to deal with in 2020, I mean, that was nothing, right? That was just logistical
Right.
stuff. And so yeah, around that time, we had made it back to Seattle, and I had an opportunity to go back with basically the team I was in before, in marketing. And my wife is a software developer, so she would have had a plethora of opportunities to go and work for any of the tech companies in Seattle. And it didn't feel right. It was one of those moments where,
You wanted to move forward.
yeah, or just, it was kind of like, when life, throws a curveball at you like that, you can either, choose to sort of, sit back and sort of, just hunker down and, focus on what you're already doing, or you can, take a swing and, look at it as you know, a silver lining kind of a situation. And so, it was one of those moments for us where it was like, you know what, why don't we look at some opportunities to start our own company? And why don't we look at maybe moving someplace other than where we had been living, and like all these kinds of things. And so it kind of created this sort of swell of ideas. And we went to Atlanta for a little bit and visited family, and thought, maybe do something in Atlanta. Then we spent some time in San Diego, and just the whole time kind of just like brainstorming and thinking. And at the same time, this is the first time we had lived in the US in a few years. Like a lot of people kind of experience living abroad for a few years, you had that reverse culture shock. And one of the major things for us that was just like, what is going on is the amount of friends and family that were taking like these functional ingredients, right? So my 67-year-old mom was taking hemp CBD, and our close friends were taking chaga and ashwagandha and lion's mane and rhodiola. And it was kind of like, what's going on here? These are people who aren't necessarily like the let's say the more left leaning when it comes to crystals and
Right.
co-ops and kind of like
CBD.
average everyday consumers. People who don't even drink kombucha, right? And here
Right.
they are like taking these functional ingredients, and it was like,
Do you think that was
is it?
because of COVID, or it was unrelated?
I think it was a combination of things. I think, there had already been a groundswell, certainly with CBD, obviously the Farm Bill Act in 2018. I think for some of these other things like functional mushrooms, people like Paul Stamets, kind of finally getting some traction, kind of outside, the small niches that he had before. And I think, yeah, COVID kind of accelerated because people were a little bit more focused on their health and, how do I live a better life? How do I feel better? And yeah, it was kind of like, well, okay, well, I don't know what the heck any of these things are, but these are close friends and family that we love and trust. Sure, like let's try it. And you know, the first question is, well, how do you take these things? And
Right.
inevitably, at the time, certainly the majority of these functional ingredients were powders and tinctures and maybe gummies or capsules. And we're pretty average consumers ourselves, so we were like, I don't think this is going to work, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't take any of these kinds of
Add
things, right? I
on
don't
to the
take
vitamin
powders.
C, the vitamin D, all the all the things you're supposed to take now to stop the replication of COVID, right? Because I
Yeah,
mean,
but
this is
like, just
you get the pills from Saturday to Sunday or Sunday to
yeah.
Saturday, just full of all this stuff you're supposed to take.
What,
It's
which, if you're able to do that, more power to
excellent.
you. But yeah, the majority of consumers, the majority of people, it's unless it's like a medication, that you're required to take, and that's
Right.
the classic sort of analogy, right? Of are you a vitamin or a painkiller? And for, for majority of vitamins, right, it's like it's a good to have, but you might take it for like a week religiously, and then all of a sudden, you go on a trip, or you got a crazy week at work or whatever, and all of a sudden it gets thrown off, and boom, like that routine is gone. So we were like, all right, well, how do we incorporate these things? And also knowing that with any of these functional ingredients, we were told, hey, you're not going to feel the benefit like from one day to another. You got to take it
Right.
consistently.
Consistently, yeah.
So so we looked at our daily routine, and the most consistent thing that we had in our routine was coffee,
Yep.
right? There was not a
Every
single
day.
day that went not a day that went by that we didn't have a cup of coffee. And you know,
Because it smells good, it tastes good, it wakes you up. It's a routine. It's your morning routine, right?
100%, 100%. And so, and also I'm half Colombian. My wife is Colombian. Like it's also like a religion too, right? So it's not even like one of those
Right.
things where it's like, oh, we were trying to quit coffee. It was like, oh, we love coffee. Like it's like we grew up with it. Like it's part of like our ritual every morning. So we're like, okay, cool. Let's try putting these things into our coffee in the morning. And we did. It tasted terrible. it was absolutely horrible.
What were you putting
But we
in
kept on.
there?
Oh, we were trying everything, right? Because we had friends who were like, sending us links, like, oh, you gotta try like turkey tail. Oh, you gotta try like L-theanine. Oh, you gotta try rhodiola. Like, I could show you photos from summer of 2020 in our cupboard. We had all these little packets from like bulksupplements.com, and all these like individual providers, and we just like it looked like a laboratory. We just had like dozens upon dozens of these like little like packets and containers and tincture drops, and um so we were like, all right, cool, well, it is becoming more consistent, but it's hard, right? Like it's hard for us because it's like it doesn't taste super great, so we're kind of choking it down. So we just went on the path of like, all right, well, how do we make it taste good, right? How do we make it enjoyable? So we started adding things that were real ingredients that were, good for you, not just like dumping a bunch of sugar into it,
Right.
but
And this is what year
added
then? Is this
this.
2021 or 2020?
This is 2020, so this is like August, September of 2020.
Okay.
Um,
So there were different options out there, but not a lot really at that time.
Really, not a lot. I mean, at that time, there was nothing really ready to drink. Probably say the most kind of accessible thing at the time was like Rebel, Rebbl. They had, kind of like the almost like a smoothie type thing.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, like, pretty decent products. But the one thing that for us was a lot of those things, they really only focused on one benefit. It'd be like immunity, like this is an immunity drink,
Right.
and this is like a recovery, and this is like a cognition, and this is a, anti-inflammatory. And it was like $7 for like one thing, and it was like, one, don't you want all those things? Like, who wakes up one morning and goes, you know what, today I could use some cognitive support, and maybe tomorrow I could use some immune support. And it's like, no, you want all
Yeah.
those things, right? Like,
Right.
who wants to choose between all these great benefits? And then, the second piece of it too was like, I don't want to necessarily have to spend, $7, $8, for a ready to drink that only has one of those benefits. And by the way, a lot of them too, and not calling out Rebel. Rebel's actually, I think, probably one of the better ones. Some of these ones that you would, buy, you'd spend $7, $8 on it, in the co-op or the Whole Foods, and you'd open it, you'd take a sip, and you'd go,
Mm.
this I'm sure is super healthy, super great for me. I don't think I could take another sip.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so yeah, so kind of, just led, to our need, right? Our pain point was like, all right, well, how do we make it routine based? How do we make it taste good? How do we like have these full benefits that are out there in a way where we're not having to pick and choose? And yeah, that's kind of what led to what our first product was, which was just our little kitchen, recipe, which at the time we called it everything latte. Now it's our mocha coffee.
Okay. This one here.
Yeah, uh-huh. But
Okay.
that was kind of what, you know,
It says to
shake well. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
I'm
Yeah, I mean,
very
there's a lot of
nervous.
great, yeah. You want to crack one open?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do
Pick
it.
your
Yeah. So
brain.
this is
Okay. I'm gonna pour it in my glass here. Actually, I'll
Okay.
just hold it.
All right.
Okay, so open it slow.
Yeah, open it slow.
Okay, it says it's
Not too bad.
plant-based here. All right.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah, so, we use organic oat base.
Ugh, yummy. Oat milk is my favorite.
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah, and that was one, thing for us, right? In terms of searching for ways to make it delicious, but also was healthy. We're not necessarily vegan ourselves, but we were looking at ways to reduce the amount of animal products in our life, mostly from a sustainability perspective. And yeah, thank you. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, it's
Oat milk was
very
one of those things where like
potassium.
it just kept on going towards, right? Because
I would
it's
never
it's
have to eat a banana again.
yeah, it's a decent amount of potassium in there, isn't there?
Decent amount of potassium. I love it. Okay, so talk about the name. Where did the name come
Yeah,
from?
altitude.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, right around that time when we kind of were like, okay, well, maybe this is the product that we want to, or this is the business we want to go about. The first thing that you always think of as an entrepreneur is, okay, what am I going to call the company? Right.
Right.
That's the fun part, right? That's like the most fun
It is
part
the
of,
fun part. Except for when you're me and you create a podcast in a week and go, oh, that's it. That's it.
but that's okay too, right? Like I'm a
Right.
firm believer in just, just go, just start something. It's
Just do
better
it.
to, yeah,
Just gotta do
have
it.
something and change it
Yeah.
than like, sit and theorize and, never actually end up starting anything.
You never do it. That's my problem. With my all my ideas. Anyway, go. Okay, so how did
Yeah.
you
So,
come to name?
altitude, it was, we came up with the idea when we knew that we were moving to Bend. So we decided to move to Bend in September. We moved there in October, and we're kind of building this idea of this company as we're moving there. And it was kind of like one of those things where it was like, all right, well, the kind of a threefold. One, like, the core of why we wanted to start this was about like elevating your routine, elevating, the way that you live, right, by utilizing these great functional ingredients. you know, Second part of it was also like, Bend's at altitude, right? Bend is a little
Yep.
bit higher up there. And then third, it was a little bit of a nod to my aviation, career,
Yes.
and
Very true.
this
Okay.
kind of idea of, living life, sort of at altitude. So it just kind of made sense. And, obviously, like, the first thing you do is you go on the U.S. Patent and Trademark, office website, and you're searching and to see, who else has that. And, yeah, there actually was a company that was a cold brew company in LA. I don't believe they're in business anymore, but that was their initial filing, was, to be Altitude. And at that point, it was already dead. The filing, and they had switched the name to, I think it was Split Decision. So it kind of worried me, because I was like, oh no, like, because that's the other part about being an entrepreneur. You find a name, you like it, and then you go out and you realize, you're like, oh wait, maybe I can't use it.
Yes, exactly. Yes, I've been through that
um,
before.
but we got lucky. We got lucky
You got
that,
lucky.
whoever it was that, had filed it, decided to switch to something else, and, abandoned it. So that was one of the very first things that we did, invested in, was making sure that we secured, like, our trademarks. And, because that was the one lesson learned that I had seen so many times from other entrepreneurs was, you go out, you create a brand, a business, or whatever, and you get pretty far down the road, and then somebody, goes, oh, actually, I already filed that, and then you have to completely rebrand, and, you're already, like,
Oh,
in
you don't have a
retail, or
website. Yeah, you have to pay $10,000 for your website. Yeah,
yep, yep.
that's a bummer. So,
um
can I go back just a second? Because I think it's really cool. So you're Colombian, your wife's Colombian. So were you married before you went to China then?
yeah, yeah.
And so was she involved with Boeing at all?
No, no,
Or the
no, she
altitude
was,
name?
Altitude. Yeah, yeah, so she's a partner in Altitude. But no, in Boeing in China, it was just her supporting my career. So she moved out to China, and, she didn't speak Chinese, so, she went through the process of, learning Chinese. And, she did do some contract stuff out there. But, yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, why we started this, there was another kind of reason too. It kind of gave us an opportunity to work on something together, to build
Yeah,
something, and, I'll be, fully transparent. Like, working in Boeing was incredible, but I was on the road a lot. I traveled
yeah.
minimum 100 to 150 days a year.
Well, didn't you work for the president of Boeing China
Yeah,
then?
yeah,
That's
yeah.
pretty high
So obviously a lot of,
profile. I mean,
no, for
yeah,
sure, and great opportunity and amazing experiences. Getting to travel and do, incredible meetings, incredible, events. But, it's hard. It's hard for a relationship to be gone a
and
lot.
if she didn't speak the language, she that would have been hard. I
For
know,
sure, for sure.
I was obsessed with going to China, I don't know, 15 years ago maybe. And I wanted to go to Shanghai and teach English, and I realized I don't know how I was going to afford it. I was going to be in like this teeny tiny little box. And I was like, nah, I don't think I want to do that. But yeah, but for her, hopefully she got out and got to travel a little bit on her own and do some cool
Oh
stuff.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
you talk to Laura, and, like, she'll say that that was, like, some of the best years of her life, because, like, I
The
mean, what an
food must
incredible
be amazing.
experience. Yeah, I mean, people always ask, right? Like, it's funny. I think part of it is the American preconceived notion of, what China's like, and obviously, you having been there, you can attest. Like, it's an endlessly fascinating and interesting place. And is it a perfect place? God, no, right? Like anywhere, right? There's,
Yeah. Yeah.
chaos. There's, parts that can be just really, really, especially as a foreigner, it can be really difficult to understand. But it's an endlessly fascinating country.
Isn't
There's,
there also like a great American expats there? Or aren't there a bunch of ways to connect with other Americans? Well, you were in
for
Beijing, so
sure.
I'm sure they're in Beijing. I know there is some in Shanghai.
Oh, 100%. I mean, yeah, I mean, like, we weren't living in, Yunnan, or, like sort of a desolate province, right? Beijing is the capital,
Exactly.
right? That's where all the embassies are. So there's, a massive population of diplomats and expats from companies. And, we had an incredible, diversity of friend group out there, right? People that were, Chinese that were actually, Lao Beijing ren, like people from Beijing, to people who, were from around China that lived there, to diplomats from all over the world, to, fellow Americans that were, working for either, companies, or teaching English, or whatever it may be. I mean, it was
Right.
an incredible diversity of people, and really an incredible life experience. So
Yeah, that's
I always kind of
amazing.
chuckle when
I'm
people
so
kind of
glad you
like,
guys got to have that. That's really cool.
yeah, no, I mean it was phenomenal. It was phenomenal. But one sort of benefit of starting your own company, right, is especially in our case where we started it together, it cuts both ways for sure. But you get to spend a lot of time together. You get to build something together. And yeah, I mean it's something that, I
You can
think
have the
even
same
for
days off together.
our exactly, exactly.
You get to pick what 13 or 15 days you want off a year.
Oh, I wish we had that many days off a year.
I know it never ends, right?
uh,
Okay, so you have the name and you have this first one. So let's talk about the ingredients in here, all these great benefits. So you've got some lion's mane,
hmm Yeah, which
and
is
that's
great
a
for
focus.
yeah, cognition, focus.
Oh, my wife says I need to focus all the time. Maybe I should just like, let me get a chocolate bar with it or something, and I'll just gnaw on it all day long. Focus, focus.
There you go. That's an idea for Startup Friday.
Yeah, there you
Lion's
go.
Mane
Startup
chocolate bars.
Friday. Well, I made chocolate bars. It's gonna help me focus. Okay, I can't see. I should have my glasses on. So chaga,
Yeah,
you got
it's actually the
chaga.
most antioxidant dense substance that you can consume. They're mushrooms that grow on the
More
side of
than
birch
blueberries?
trees. Yeah, even
This is
more than
just bigger
blueberries.
than one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, really
What is
great
it?
for
Is it
immune
a
support.
plant?
It's a fungus. It's a mushroom.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. It grows on the sides of birch trees in the Arctic Circle. So it's actually quite traditional within like Finnish and Russian and like native cultures to honestly a lot of them they drink chaga tea. So like if you
Oh,
have like
okay.
Russian friends or Finnish friends or like native friends like from like Alaska or like northern Canada, and you ask them about it, like it's quite
That's a
common.
thing.
Um,
Well, I guess since I can't stop getting COVID, I should probably have some of that too.
Probably couldn't hurt.
Probably couldn't hurt. Okay, what else? We got reishi.
Yeah, Reishi, that's another fungus.
Okay.
Varying benefits for that, but gut
Gut
health is
health.
certainly one of them.
Well, that's right up my alley. Gosh, this is just. Did you make this for me? I feel like you did. I feel like this has Jesse Ott written all over it. Okay. So cordyceps,
Cordyceps.
cordyceps. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, another
And
fungus. Yeah, this is one that's been kind of infamous lately because I'm not sure if you've seen or have heard of that series on HBO called The Last of Us.
yes, I
Yeah,
haven't.
so
I
that's
haven't seen it all. I've only seen half of it. I think they finished it without me. So go ahead.
yeah, no, that's the fungus in the movie that's the creating the virus or whatever, which obviously fictional. It's based off of a video game, but
It's based
yeah,
on a
it's
video game.
it's yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, the benefits there are really great for like endurance. Like it's really well known within Chinese traditional medicine to kind of help out, especially like people who are like athletes or endurance athletes. With high altitude running. Yeah, it's really good for just natural kind of energy performance, that kind of stuff.
Okay. So if people are getting tired at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, that might be a good thing to get them through the afternoon, get that endurance through the finish line.
Exactly, exactly.
Okay, so we've got turmeric and CBD.
Yeah, both really great
Turmeric,
anti-inflammatories. That's
anti-inflammatory.
honestly a lot of the basis of why we started taking both of those. I mean, especially hemp-derived CBD is especially like if you're like an active person, or heck, even if it's just somebody who has the aches and pains of just daily life, right? It's a great anti-inflammatory. Um, but it's one of those things, right? With all those things, it's like in order to realize the benefits, you got to take it consistently, right? Because we hear that time and time again. People are like, "Oh, I took CBD once and I didn't feel anything." That's like, yeah,
I know.
like of
Yeah.
course.
Right. So how often should I be drinking these then?
Well, clearly 3 times a day, and you can get on subscription at altitudebev.com. No, I'm kidding.
Hey, well, that's good. I love oatmeal.
We intended it to be a daily beverage, so we wanted to we want it to be something that you could certainly, insert it into your routine. Especially like maybe the way that we always kind of viewed it is like for people who are going out there, on a busy schedule and they're picking up a Starbucks in the morning or a,
Right.
Red Bull from the, gas station or whatever, like people kind of tend to forget how much they're reaching for convenience in their existing routine. Because people are always like,
Yep.
oh, like I would never spend, $5 a day on, coffee or $10 a day. And then you're like, wait, look back on like your last month, look at your credit
Yep.
card record. How many times did you go to Starbucks? How many times did you like, buy that, whatever, Rockstar or whatever at the gas station? It's like, you know,
Yep.
just
The
for
gas
us, it's like,
station,
hey,
I know people that just get up and go to the gas station every day. It's just a routine that it's just
yeah,
something that they do. It's just part of they get up, they got to get in the car and get woken up and get their
sure.
daily whatever, and that's kind of how they start their day. A lot of workers are out there. That's what they meet there, or they start there, they start their day there.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
know?
And there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, I think it's whatever your routine
No,
is.
absolutely
And
not.
I think that's where for us, it's like just making a better option out there, right? So instead of something that's going to make you crash and, feel jittery throughout the day, it was like, hey, let's, you know, it's coffee, one, so you do get that energy. But two, with all those functional ingredients, it kind of also helps to give you that sustained energy. So you kind of
Right.
have like a nice, like, smooth curve as opposed to like, peak and then a trough.
Right.
Um, and yeah, and just make it as easy as literally cracking open a can, right? Instead of going into your kitchen, making coffee, mixing powders, like, standing your kitchen counter with turmeric, it's
Yeah.
like,
You got that oil, that gross oil you put in there. Um, so this is really, really, really yummy. So I'll tell you, I love coffee, but it doesn't love me, and it's because of the high acid content that I
hmm
just can't drink it anymore, and I'm really
sure.
sad about it. Now, my best friend's her husband in Dallas, he took a old freezer, a deep freeze, and turned it into a kegerator.
Yeah,
And
totally.
so he'll make cold brew and put it on nitro. And so they've got cold brew, and when you steep it the way you do with cold brew, it's less acid. So I know
hmm
cold brews and all that's really really popular. And so in the summertime especially, I'll do stuff like that. But I'm at the point where I can't even drink coffee. And so this would actually have the opposite effect for me because it's got the gut health in it, which would be healthy, which would be
Sure,
really
sure, sure.
beneficial. So I could totally see where I could easily switch to this.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And we do use cold brew. That's the base of the coffee in our latte. And then
It's
obviously like
good.
things like oat milk helps to lower the pH of it as well.
Yes,
So
we use
making
oat
it
milk all the time.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, or raise the pH level. Sorry, so making it more basic as opposed to acidic. But yeah, that's also. But to your point, that's why we then after and kind of speeding up a little bit, we launched the mocha in June of 2021, like the first
so that's
actual
pretty quick.
commercial. Oh yeah, yeah, we went fast. I mean, like that was the
Yeah,
one thing for me was we did a very first test production run within 45 days of moving to Bend.
that's amazing because you got
Um,
to find someone who has the cans. You got to create the label. You got to create your logo.
I mean, it was scrappy for sure. I mean, we literally hand canned a couple thousand cans that we went out just to go and get consumer feedback and
Yep.
feedback from retailers and distributors. I mean, that was the number one thing for me was if we were going to do this, we were going to do it quickly and we were going to do it focused on is there truly a market need as opposed to hey, I really like this thing and I just want to start it because I like it. And it was like, no, like we knew going into it was like, if there's not somebody willing to, take money out of their wallet and, pay money for it and a retailer willing to, make room on their shelf to, to display it and a distributor that's actually going to put it on their truck to take it to the retailer, like, maybe it's just a hobby then.
Right.
So yeah, so we did a really quick test production run, got enough, confidence that we then figured out, okay, how do we actually like commercially produce this? Did our first commercial production run in May, launched it into market in June. And that was one of like, kind of the feedbacks that we're getting was people were like, oh, like I really love it. Like it's amazing, but like I'm really trying to cut down on coffee or like, hey, like, I like everything that you're putting in there, but like, I'm not a huge fan of the flavor of coffee. And obviously, a smaller percentage, but big enough
Right.
where we're hearing it again and again. And it was like, well, why don't we offer some different options?
Yes. So let's try one.
Yeah, so I would move to the chai next. So we launched a chai and a matcha.
The black tea.
Um,
Okay.
yeah,
So we're gonna
so
try
chai
this
black
one.
tea.
Okay.
And
Shake it again.
yeah, yeah, give
Oh,
it a shake.
so weird. Okay.
Well, and part of the reason why we tell people to shake it is we do a nitro infusion into the can. So when we can it,
That's perfect. So you
yeah,
can
it
see
just
this is same nice color,
nice and creamy.
nice and creamy.
Yeah, and that's because the nitrogen it helps to it's a condensed gas. So when you get it through the liquid, just like a Guinness or anything like that, it gives it that nice mouthfeel, which for us then enables us to use an oat milk with no palm oils or wheat binders, because we know it can get that creaminess from the nitrogen, as opposed to stuff that
People
not
don't
to be
want to put
named,
in their
but some of the
bodies.
major oat milk brands put into their stuff just to make it creamy.
Yeah. Oh, this smells really, really, really yummy. And look at the foamy top. I mean, that's the nitro, right? And then part of the oat milk, I guess.
It's the nitrogen. It kind of gives that nice little head.
Mmm. That is really good.
Yeah, and we used a little bit of little coconut,
Yum.
so that's kind of like the little flavor twist in our chai.
Okay, so that would be the only difference then is coconut versus the cocoa.
Exactly. So with each of them, we wanted to, and you'll see with the matcha here in a little bit, but with each of them, we wanted to have a little bit of a flavor twist. So it wasn't just like a super like generic run of the mill. If we're going to be
Right.
putting all these great ingredients into it, we were like, let's make it fun. Let's make it something different. Let's make it something that's like more than just the run of the mill.
So who was the first big customer that was kind of was like a key moment for you guys?
Yeah. So for us, it was a regional chain in Oregon called Market of Choice.
This is so
So,
good. I'm gulping it.
oh, thank you, thank you.
Sorry. So
No,
good.
I,
Mm.
I'm happy to hear that. Yeah, Market of Choice was our first major retail account, and yeah, we got really fortunate. They gave us authorization within about a month after launching, and that was really kind of the big sort of marquee moment for us. That was like, okay, if
Okay.
somebody
And
their
that was just
size,
with the single one, right? Just
it
this
was just
one?
with the single one,
The cocoa. Okay.
which then kind of set off a motion, right? Because it's like it's a momentum game, right? With CPG as well. Everybody's always asked, okay, what other retail authorizations do you have, and how many stores, and what's your
Exactly.
velocity in
It's
those stores, and so that was our first opportunity to kind of get that marquee retailer, especially regionally. And from there, it enabled us to get into distribution, which then enabled us to get more accounts, and kind of just sort of created the ball rolling effect.
it just takes
Um,
one.
yeah, 100%, 100%. And yeah, and through that was kind of the confidence to be like, okay, like by that point, we already had like a roadmap of product development, right, of where we wanted to go as a company.
Right.
And that was one of those moments where it started to give us the confidence of, okay, yeah, this is something that like is worth starting to double down on, right? Start to invest more into it, start to realize that full vision that we had sort of set out to create.
So when did the next flavor come?
So we did the matcha and the chai December of that year, December of 2021. So
Okay,
I
so
told you we're
like
fast.
6
Like
months.
if we're gonna do this, we're gonna do it. And yeah, and that was right around the time too that we finalized our first major distribution agreement in the Pacific Northwest, with a large distributor. Started to also put ourselves out there beyond regionally,
Now, were
and it
those distributions
was
for grocery or for
Yeah. So it was a DSD, Columbia Distributing, which this is part of um, the world that we live in with having CBD in our products.
Right.
We don't have access to like KeHE and Unify, like the traditional natural product distributors. So all of our, or the majority of our distributors are like alcohol distributors.
Oh, they are.
Um,
Okay. I was
yeah,
wondering if that was the case. So then that's because it's got the CBD in it.
yeah. They've been the ones that have been able to, sort of have the risk tolerance, which is kind of crazy to think that they would think there's risk tolerance, but just have the ones that have been willing to go out and take the bet on it. Although it's starting to change, there's definitely more kind of traction, happening with some other distributors and even retailers. But yeah, the kind of the big marquee moment for us then, going into 2022 was getting a sample request from Sprouts Farmers Markets. That
Nice.
was actually right around this time last year. And it kind of came out of the blue, and every once in a while you get kind of those things, and you're like, all right, well, like amazing, that'd be awesome if that happened, but it's probably not going to happen. Like
Right.
we're
It's
too
probably
early.
not gonna happen.
We've only been on market for like 6 months. Like there's no way that somebody like Sprouts would bring on our products, and they did. Like within a month after sending samples, I got a call from Phoenix. I was like, huh. Like we have one friend in Phoenix, but I have their number saved in my phone. So who's calling me? And yeah, it was Sprouts, and they were like, "Hey, yeah, we tried your stuff and we really like it, and you know, you guys want to like come
That's
on board?"
great.
And I was like, "Absolutely."
Yeah, on the next flight out.
Yeah. So yeah, so
So
that
will
was
you
kind of the next
have
sort of
these
major
3
step change for
oh,
us.
I'm sorry, go ahead, what? I was
No, I was
interrupting
just
you.
saying that that was like kind of the next sort of like when you think about like the step change of
Absolutely.
growth,
No, that's huge.
like that
That's
was
national
yeah.
level. So how many locations did they bring it into then?
Uh, at the time, it was funny because initially it was just going to be Colorado, but they were in process of for the first time bringing CBD comestibles outside of Colorado, and they were like, "Oh yeah, well we'll start you in Colorado, and maybe then we'll bring you outside." And I was like, "Well, are you doing CBD outside of Colorado?" And they were like, "Well, yeah, well we're actually going to start this July. We're going to start doing it in 9 states and." A little under 200 stores, so about half of the total number of stores that they have. And I was like, well, could we like just go ahead and do that? And they were like, well, yeah, I guess you can. Like, and so, I mean, that's the power of just
It's
asking,
like the
right?
easiest like conversation ever.
Yeah, I mean, Sprouts. I mean, yeah, God bless them. They're amazing. They're an awesome partner. Really easy to work
Yeah,
with. But yeah, so we ended up launching in July, and I think started with like 172 stores.
that's great.
It's grown a little
That's
bit
huge.
since then, but
And they have
yeah,
all
nine.
3 flavors?
They do, yeah. They brought on all three of the latte flavors,
Okay.
um, and yeah, that was a huge moment for us, obviously.
So how many states are you in now then?
So I think we're in 14 now, if
Okay.
my memory serves me correct from the last pod order that we got. But yeah, primarily concentrated on West Coast, like that's where we have the biggest concentration, and then obviously Sprouts in places like Texas and Florida. We've been able to leverage the density of those accounts into getting some more chains and small independent grocers and retailers as well.
Oh, that's great. All right, the suspense is killing me. Let's get to this third one.
Yeah. So the matcha. This is the most polarizing one of the lattes. I think
Is it?
matcha just in general, it's one of those things where like I don't know how to like. I think the most honest way to say it is people either love it or hate it.
Okay. Let's see if I love it or hate it.
It's okay. And if you hate it, it's okay too, right?
Okay,
It's just
right.
matcha's. Well, here, well, cheers. I won't say anything else until you try it.
There. Cheers. Okay. Also a dark color. They all kind of look like chocolate milk, don't they?
Yeah. Very
Makes me
creamy.
very, yeah, makes me very happy. Okay, yeah, I could see the polarizing smell. It's definitely I would say strong, but it's pleasant. It's lovely. It's like coconut.
little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what I would expect it to taste like. It's awesome.
Okay,
No, I
cool,
really like
cool.
it. So what's this sixth ingredient that's different?
We use
Pandan?
pandan. Yeah.
Pandan.
So that's no, you're good. Pandan, pandan, whatever.
Pandan.
It's a leaf from Southeast Asia that has a lot of flavor qualities to like a taro, a little bit of a coconut,
Mm-hmm.
vanilla, like it's sometimes called like the vanilla of Asia. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's high in antioxidants as well, but for us, it's just
It's
so
earthy.
matcha is yeah, matcha is the whole green tea leaf that's finely ground, right? So you get not only all those health benefits, but you get a lot of the earthiness, right, of the tea
Earthy,
leaf.
bitter.
And so that's why for a lot of times like matcha, and we're matcha fans, but like it can be a little bit too powerful, it can be a little too strong. So that's why we added the pandan into it because it kind of just gives it a nice little softness to it, right? So it kind of
Mm-hmm.
rounds out some of those really
Still
sharp
has
edges.
creamy kind of texture to it, which is the oat milk, I guess.
Exactly, exactly. Well, and also the matcha too. The matcha helps to aid some of that creaminess because it's a real sort of fine powder as well.
So why matcha?
So it's the perfect in between like a chai and a coffee. So because you have the whole green tea leaf, you also have a little bit more caffeine, and it fits right in the middle between the two. So whereas our coffee is around 120 milligrams of caffeine per can, our chai is about 30 milligrams, of caffeine per can. The matcha is like smack dab in the middle. It's about 75.
Yeah. Okay.
So for people who are tea drinkers but want a little bit more, kind of kick to it.
Mm-hmm.
And also, once again, people who love matcha, right? It's one of those things where it's got a very, fervent, audience. And we're matcha fans, so it was like, cool. Well, let's provide a cool option out there because we didn't really see that many matcha options. I think partly because it is hard.
No, there isn't any. I mean, I don't. They're not very many.
Yeah, especially for ready to drink. I
Yeah.
mean, typically you're seeing it in coffee shops with people, doing the ceremonial grade matcha, which we use a ceremonial grade. It's just it's not made, right in front of you. It's in a can.
Okay, I got it. So which one is the biggest seller today?
Coffee,
Coffee.
coffee for sure. I mean,
It's really good. It's
it's also
yummy.
just where, you look at statistics. 63% of US adults drink at least one cup of coffee a day,
Yep.
right?
And that's what you
Yeah.
wanted, right? You wanted to do the coffee every day, ritual coffee.
Exactly, exactly. But at the same time, right? Like the chai and the matcha, they're not that far behind. Obviously, it's a little bit less so in terms of total volume, but we have people who subscribe to our website. Like there are people who order 24 cans at a time of like the matcha and the chai, right? Like it's just
That's
like
awesome.
it's so funny to see, right? It's like it's that like kind of 80-20 rule, right? Where it's like with the matcha and chai, like 80% of like the revenue that we get off of those lines come from like 20% of the
Yep.
customers.
Yep. They're diehards. That's
Exactly.
great. Okay, so do we want to move on to this new line that you have?
Love to. Love to. Yeah. This is
Okay.
where for us, we're seeing, the most growth. And, for us
Okay.
too, it's been such a fun journey with. So, as I kind of mentioned, when we started, obviously the coffee was the genesis of it. But
Correct.
even then, in the summer, kind of early fall of 2020, we knew that we wanted to start a functional beverage company, not just like a CBD company or a CBD coffee company. And we wanted it to be like our ethos from day one was how do we make functional ingredients accessible and delicious by putting it into your existing beverage routine.
Right.
And so, start with the first part of your routine, your morning. And at the same time, we were going through kind of our own personal journey of reevaluating our relationship with alcohol. So through like the pandemic and
Yep.
spending quite a few years in sales and marketing, and then also living in China, where
You
every
stay up
single
all night and drink with your boss?
yeah, where the work functions, it's part of
Yeah.
the culture, right? Like
Right.
you're supposed to do business, sober, and then you do business inebriated because it's like if you can like be trusted, in both states, then okay, like you're It's a
That's what they're doing. Oh, that's funny.
hmm
Okay, I didn't know that.
hmm
Interesting cultural lesson.
And so yeah, so with this journey of adding all these functional ingredients, one thing that we did at the time was this like kind of like a I don't know if you've heard of it before. It's called like 75 hard. Like you spend 75 days and like you have to do all these things, and one of it is you're not supposed to drink any alcohol.
Okay.
So we were like, okay, cool. Like, let's do that. Like, this will be like a great opportunity for us to kind of reset. And like within like 3 or 4 days, like, when like the evenings would come around, we'd be like, not like, oh, like I really want alcohol, but you were like, I want something. Like, I want
Yeah, you
something
just
that's like,
chilling out. You're recapping the day, and yeah,
yeah, and in a bubbly water or even like a kombucha or like like it didn't hit the spot. It was one of those things where it was like, you know, I don't feel like I have that like evening ritual.
right.
And so we tried things like kava, which you definitely get a feeling from for sure, but it tastes terrible. It tastes like dirt.
Terrible.
Um,
I don't like coffee either.
and so then that's kind of where we started the second journey, which was, all right, well, what are things that kind of help to take the edge off that aren't like alcohol, right? And obviously there's things like THC that kind of get you high, but it's like I don't really necessarily want to be high, right? I don't want to be like
Right. You just want
I
to
don't
be
want to be
chill.
inebriated. I don't want to be high. I just want to be like relaxed.
Yeah,
So that kind
exactly.
of set us on the journey of learning about things like nootropics, like these amino acids, and other things that kind of help to take the edge off. So right around the same time, we started to formulate these things in our own kitchen, and then summer of last year, summer of 2022, we got the confidence of, okay, we've launched the 3 lattes, we got those out in distribution. We want this product for ourselves. So we did our very first production run of what we call our sunset vibes.
Okay.
So they're a sparkling white tea base that
This is the
we
blue
use.
Hawaiian.
Yeah, so we use real fruit juices,
This is the first
and
one.
then yeah, nootropics. So we use GABA, 5-HTP, L-theanine, in addition to cordyceps and CBD to
Oh,
basically.
spirulina. I take that because of COVID.
Yeah. Well, kind of similar to the ethos. We wanted a real ingredient. So with the blue Hawaiian, we wanted that kind of fun, electric blue without having to use food coloring, right?
Right.
Using dyes or artificial things. So blue spirulina, it's a great functional ingredient and also gives it that great blue color.
I didn't know that. I thought it was green. Maybe they mix spirulina with other things. Cause
I mean, it's definitely, I will say it's aquamarine, teal to
okay.
aquamarine.
Ooh, pretty.
So you'll see, you'll
Like the sea. Okay.
yeah,
All
you'll
right.
see when you open it and you pour it out.
Let's do this thing. Do I shake
but
it?
yeah, so
No.
no, you don't have to shake this one.
Don't shake this one. It's got
Yeah,
bubbles in
yeah, it's got a little bit of carbonation to it.
it. Okay.
Cheers.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Cheers. Yummy.
So
So it's
yeah, so
kind
the
of
blue
light
Hawaiian is
blue
pineapple,
green.
curacao, which traditionally is a bitter orange liqueur. Since we're using a non-alcoholic, we're using basically like a combination of bitter orange flavors and the orange juice,
Definitely get the orange.
spirulina. But
It
yeah, it
smells
should
kind
be
of healthy, like earthy, kind of.
the spirulina definitely has a little bit of
And the pineapple.
an
The
earthiness to
pineapple
it.
really, yeah. I love pineapple. I've been eating it like crazy since I've been down with COVID. Oh, that's refreshing.
Very
Oh, I
refreshing,
love
right?
the citrus.
hmm And it's 40
It's
calories.
not sweet like you'd
Not.
expect it to be. It's not
Mm-mm,
sweet. It's
mm-mm.
just,
Yep.
it's got a little bubbles to it. So I don't know if you, it's kind of hard to see because I've got my light on, but there's some bubbles in there.
Yeah, lightly carbonated, enough to give it a little bit of body, but not like a LaCroix or a Dr. Pepper where it's like, making your stomach bubble.
Right. But it's also, gosh, it's like a nice combination of both pineapple and orange because when I finish it in the like kind of like the aftertaste is very almost orange juice like. It's so
hmm
wild. It's so refreshing and yummy. Like you
Well,
could
thank you. I
totally,
appreciate that.
you could even have this for breakfast
Yeah, why not? Why not? I
with
mean,
your pancake
we don't judge.
and bacon. So how do you typically serve this then? You just pour it over ice or do you put fruit with it or
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like with all the products, we want it to be accessible from a can. So that way, like you're like, especially with this line, we've seen huge growth with like the on-premise, right? So bars, restaurants,
okay.
concert venues.
Oh,
Actually, our very
concert venues,
first
I can see.
account
Yeah.
last summer was the Live Nation venue in Central Oregon. So you're out at a concert and it's a Tuesday night, and say maybe you had a beer or a cocktail, but there's
Right.
2 hours left of the concert, and you're like, well, I got meetings at 6:30 tomorrow morning. I'm not really trying to, feel hungover. Have something that has that social occasion,
Right.
or for the people who just don't want to drink at all, right? But they don't necessarily
Mhm.
want a soda or or this is the thing that we heard a lot too. Is our sort of journey is when we're not drinking, like I'm not a big beer fan to begin with, which is kind of
Right.
sacrilegious because we live in Beer Town, USA. There's
Right.
like 45 breweries in Bend.
Yeah.
But it's like if I'm not drinking alcohol, like I don't necessarily want a non-alcoholic beer, and that's typically like the options that you see at these places, which is great. I mean, like Athletic Brewing and
Yeah.
all these things are great options, but like just because you're not drinking doesn't assume that you drank beer when you were drinking, you know?
Right, exactly. Yeah, it seems to be a thing. My last week's guest, he's Irish and he went back to two weddings in Ireland and both weddings offered um a non-alcoholic beer on tap, I think he said.
Yeah.
And I saw it on the news. We are GMA people and it's a thing. What I guess they're expecting 4% of all weddings this year to be 100% non-alcoholic for
Hmm. Hmm.
whatever the reason might be, which is great. I think it's awesome, that it's more accepted. And I had another person on this podcast, Max Green from Leader Brewing. Once Athletic came out and he saw that they could do it and it tastes good, he's like, I'm all on board because he's been brewing on
Sure.
and off for 17 years. So it's a thing. And what's interesting too is a lot of people, even Bill Gamelli with mocktails, beverages, they're not saying it's a substitute, but you could just have one in between. Like if you want a beer
Yeah.
or a
Moderate.
cocktail and then you take a rest and you have one and which I think is a great idea because, I mean, you don't maybe you don't want to drink all day or
Sure.
all night or like you said at the concert because I don't know if it's I don't know what's going on. Maybe in our 20s we could do whatever we want and get up and go to work the next day, but can't
Sure.
do it anymore.
No. 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 I think it's just people, reevaluating their own health, right?
You're right.
Being
Yep.
conscious about, and that's the number thing that we always tell people is just, just be conscious about like what you put in your body, about, how you live your life. And, progress isn't made through like large, wide sweeping changes. It's usually
Yep.
incrementally.
Yep.
And that's where you're 100% right. I mean, of the people that are buying, non-alcoholic products, 70% of them are people who still consume alcohol,
Right.
right? So, I mean, certainly there's a whole audience of people who are, sober, and it's you talk to them and it's like game changing to have
Game
so many
changer.
amazing, products. But the reality is that the majority of people who are buying these things are people who, to your point, they're like, I'll have like a beer and then I'll switch over, or
Right.
it's like it's just finding better options to moderate, so
Mhm.
that way you're not feeling like, well, if I'm out at the bar and I'm having a meeting or a happy hour, it's like my only option is just to keep drinking. It's like, it's like it's come to the point now where it's that social element of it, right? That social validation has probably been the biggest piece with these types of products is you hold this right in your hand. It doesn't look like you're holding like a soda or
Right.
sparkling water, right? It looks like you're holding like a seltzer or like a canned cocktail.
A
And
canned
so that
cocktail.
alone just kind of like gives the people like the confidence of like, oh yeah, like I can hang out and other people can be drinking, but I don't have to, and I don't have to feel that like social stigma of being the outsider or the
Right.
one that's like, oh well, why are you drinking water, or why are you drinking soda or whatever.
Yep. Yeah, that kind of meant, I guess it's kind of like an an attitude or a thought process that is really kind of not a part of our culture anymore. It's gone. I mean, it's just so accepted now, which is great, because if you're, you know, you don't want to drink, or it's a lifestyle choice, or if you're a woman trying to get pregnant or whatever the case may be, it's
Sure.
no longer an issue. It's just like, okay, all right, cheers. It's not,
Yeah.
it's not a thing anymore. And I love that. I think that was certainly a definite benefit to this whole infusion of products that are, you're able to be in a bar, or you're able to be, with friends at a picnic, or a wedding. I
Yeah.
mean, if you're drinking if you're having a draft beer and there's no alcohol in it, nobody knows.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody
No, for
knows.
sure.
Nobody
For
cares.
sure. No,
Yeah.
nobody cares. Exactly. It's to the point where it's just like, it's that social acceptance.
Yeah.
Um,
Look, if
but
they can
for
do
us,
it in Ireland, you can do it anywhere, right?
that's true. True. Very true. But we want to take a step further too, right? Because it was like, for us in our personal experience, it was like, okay, well, how do we still get that taking the edge off feeling? Like, how do we still get that like kind of relaxation?
Yep.
And because once again, it's like you may not want to be drinking, but part of that evening ritual, just as much as like the morning, where it's like you want the energy, you want the focus, you want like all these things to kind of get you through the day. We still wanted something that was like, how do we get that unwind? And that's where for us it was like, okay, well, not only is it like taste like a cocktail, look like a cocktail, we wanted to have those similar just unwind, effects of a cocktail. So yeah, that's where for us it's like our full differentiation is not drunk, not high, but like just get that unwind.
Just chill. Yep, that's that. That's the
Exactly.
one thing too, is where when we're all done with work and we come in together as a family or whatever, it's like, okay, let's just have a glass of wine together. Let's just chill out. How was your day?
Sure.
So it makes perfect sense, and I really like that as an alternative, because the sugar that's involved, like I mentioned with coffee and the acid, and then you have too much of that, it creates sort of this problem, this systemic problem. So to have that kind of relaxing effect would be a perfect alternative.
That's our hope. And kind of to further go on that idea of like the compounding effect, the way that we saw it was like you kind of get yourself into a vicious cycle where people they have one too many drinks at a happy hour.
Yep.
They wake up groggy the next morning, so they drink one too many coffees throughout the day just to kind of get through the day. So then they're amped up, so then you have to like wind yourself back down with
Back
like
down.
maybe one too many like glasses of wine. And then it's like this is really vicious cycle that we
It
even saw in
is.
our own routine, where it was like, hey, like if you can start your day off right, like I mean, you asked earlier, like what's our recommendation? Like, truthfully, like we hope that people only have to drink one of our lattes, like, which is
Right.
probably not the right thing to say as like a CEO of a company where you're like, you should drink
Yeah,
as
but it's
much as
the
you want.
truth.
But no, but truly, like it's like you should only have to have one of them to get through your whole day, have the energy and the focus that you need to get through your work day. And then yeah, and then like for the evening unwind, like have this that replaces the need for the alcohol, or maybe the need to overconsume alcohol, so that you wake up feeling refreshed enough that you only need to have maybe one of our lattes or one cup of coffee or one cup of tea or whatever it may be. So I mean, like that's where for us is like, obviously we hope people are buying our products and enjoying our products, but we hope it also kind of helps them in their pursuit of living a better life. Like,
Right.
just make those things a little bit easier, right? Those small little choices,
Small
that
little
have
choices
that
of
compounding effect.
yeah, absolutely. So do we want to try another flavor?
So you want to try the crowd favorite?
Yes, please. I
Okay, so
love
the
grapefruit.
Paloma has created a whole life of its own. This is the one
Really?
that was the most difficult for us to formulate. It was the one that I was
Okay.
the most excited about, but it was really really hard. It has become by far the most popular.
Has it?
So
Okay.
it's a ruby red grapefruit
Oh, look at
with
that color.
basil.
Oh, I love basil. It makes me want to go out in the garden and throw some in there. Wow, I
Mm-hmm.
can smell
Mm-hmm.
it already.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can definitely smell some of that basil. Definitely, you get the ruby red for sure.
Mm-hmm.
It's that
Mm-hmm.
more pungent kind of flavor to it, and then you got the little bubbles, and that's so smooth. Wow, that is smooth. Wow, wow, that is really fun. It's really it's like it's just so light and simple and refreshing. I could totally see sitting on our lanai out here, after work and just kind of chilling out. And I'd probably put some fruit in there, a little like the orange slice, and
Yeah, sure.
of course I'd go to the garden and throw a bunch of basil in there because I love basil.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think for us, it's like, it's just that really nice citrus, a little bit of sweet, and
Yes,
that's the nice thing with the ruby red. It's a sweeter, less bitter grapefruit than a pink grapefruit. And then that like just little herbal kiss, right? Like it
yes.
doesn't like overpower. It just
Mm.
gives it a nice sort of like fresh, kick to the mouthfeel.
The citrus is making my mouth water. Like, oh, I need more. Oh, I need more. Where is that? I want some more. It really does. It's awesome. But I mean, I love citrus.
Yeah, no, no, I thank you. I mean,
Citrus
it's
and basil. Mm.
yeah, it's for us. It's we were the most worried about it just because grapefruit can be really polarizing as well, right? Some people are like, oh, I don't like grapefruit. Grapefruit's
Yeah,
too
that's very
bitter,
true.
and I always tell people, hey, try it, just try it. If you don't like
Yeah,
it, that's
try it.
okay. But this is the one where it's like I said, it's just created its own life because once people like realize that they like it, they go crazy. Like we have like accounts that will go through,
Yeah.
a whole case in like a 24-pack case in like an evening, and like it'll
Oh,
be
that's
like
good.
four people who are drinking it, right?
Right.
They'll drink like four or five of them. And yeah, I mean, I think it's just one of those things where it surprises people how refreshing it is, how
Yes.
much it kind of feels like a cocktail, right? Like it's got
Yeah.
that sort
This
of,
is definitely my favorite of all. I mean, this is so different. And I could see where people would want to put vodka. I mean,
sure,
I'd go so far as to say you could put some bourbon in here and it'd be awesome.
which is another
I
thing
may
for
have
us.
to
I mean,
try
like,
that after this.
go
I'll,
for it. I mean,
I'll,
we don't
I'll
judge.
let
I
you
mean,
know.
that's another thing that, we say with it is like, we intend it to be, like a non-alcoholic option. But if you want to pour a little bit of, tequila or mezcal or whiskey or vodka or whatever you want into it, like go for it. Like,
Yeah.
yourself. And if that's what, your enjoyment is, like, who are we to say that, oh, you shouldn't do that?
Yeah, you can't tell me not to put bourbon in there.
Well, let me know how that goes. I'm curious. I haven't
Yeah.
heard anybody putting bourbon in the Paloma.
I don't know why it just inspired me.
Yeah, I can see that. Like, what's the Brown Derby? Is the bourbon and grapefruit juice cocktail?
I don't know, but it sounds good. I will I'll videotape myself or something to send it to you so you can see my reaction because I think it's gonna be fun. I absolutely, you're right. That is that is on the money. I really like that one
Thank you.
a
No, we
lot.
appreciate
Yeah,
that.
no, that's good.
Do you want to try the last one?
Yep, last one. Okay, what do we got
Okay.
here?
So this is our version of a Moscow Mule. We call it a mountain
Okay,
mule. Once again,
okay,
another kind of ode to to our mountain setting.
okay.
And then yeah, partly so we use a garden mint in it as well to kind of get some
Okay.
of that herbalness. But the way that it's interacting with the ginger, it
Got a
almost
pretty
gives
color.
it kind of like a piney quality. So
Okay.
it kind of helps to reinforce that sort of mountain, you know, that
Oh
mountain
yeah.
smell, that sort of
Mhm.
mountain, flavor to it. So
Yep,
that's
you
why we call it a
definitely get
mountain mule.
that. In Florida, we have a lot of pine trees. I know it sounds strange, but there's pine cones all over the place, and if you smell those trees, this is what it smells like.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's got that spice to it. I love ginger. I make my own ginger ale all the time. I love it so much
Yeah,
because I
yeah,
don't want the sugar. Everything has so much sugar in it.
exactly. Which is The one thing with all our beverages, but
Mm,
including our evening line, we add. Somebody put this the other week, and I love how it just makes so much sense to go. Sugar inherently is not bad or evil or anything like that. It's just the overuse of it.
yeah.
And the way you have to think about it is like salt. It's seasoning, right? Like you wouldn't pour
Good
two
point.
cups
That
of
makes me
salt
feel
in.
bad now. I need to cut sugar out of my diet.
Well, but that's where it's like for these, right? Like they're all 8 grams of sugar. The majority of that's coming from the fruit juices. Only a
Yep.
little bit of added through an organic cane sugar. But especially with like the mule, like you look at like the options that are on the marketplace for like ginger beers or ginger ales. You know, Majority of them are like 35 to like 50 grams of sugar, per container. And I think because ginger can be polarizing if it's sort of in its raw form, it can
Raw
be too
form, yeah.
spicy, it can be too
You
earthy.
can't
For us, it was like we want to lean into that,
bring it.
right? Like it's
Yeah,
if you really like ginger, if you really like a mule, like you want something with some bite.
that's right. That
So
ginger beer is very pungent. In fact, it's even too much for me. I don't care for ginger beer, but I love raw
sure,
ginger. It doesn't make any sense.
it's
but
okay.
but this doesn't seem to be this is not over gingery to me, but all these are just lovely and delicate to me as
Oh, thank you.
as a combination of flavors because nothing really overempowers the other and they're extremely well balanced whereas I'm not getting when you taste it maybe on the I can definitely smell the pine but when you actually taste it it's just so well balanced and smooth and it's just easy drinking. I can totally I should just try your products for a month and see how I feel at the end of the month.
Yeah, I would love to. I'd love to. I mean, like, yeah, I mean, that's like the thing for us is, we're always, other than like the flavor, like, comments that we get, positive flavor comments, the thing that I always love to hear the most, on the lattes is when people go like, I had one of your lattes and I literally knocked out my to-do list. Like all those things that I've been just kind of like, putting to the side, like I went out there and I just, I felt so focused, I felt so clear. And then on the other side of it, it's like when people like are like, hey, like I had like one of your sunset vibes, like the Paloma or the Mule or the Blue Hawaiian, and I just like had that deep like like that breath, right? Like that at the
Right.
end of the day, like that unwind, like the shoulders kind of like unclenching. It's just like that's for me is more powerful than And don't get me wrong, I love it when people are like, oh, it's so delicious, or it was
Right.
like
Well,
exactly what I was looking for in flavor, but it's the feeling that we're going for.
right. This is an experience. Yeah. That's exactly what I mean, you created these because that's what you wanted and you want other people to have that exact same experience. And I'm looking for alternatives for that experience because I don't need the sugar.
Yeah, no, I get you.
you
I
know?
get you.
Yeah. No, these are really good. So where can people buy these? And by the way, I want to mention the white tea. These are all made with
Mhm.
white tea, which is my favorite. I love white and green teas. They're my absolute favorite. So where are these available outside of your website?
So right now it's predominantly on the West Coast. We're
Okay.
mostly in Oregon and Washington, a little bit into
Okay.
California at this point. But we have some exciting news that I can't quite yet announce,
That's
but we'll
fine.
be announcing in the next month or so here. We've got a new distributor that's going to be bringing that on nationally.
Great. Well, let me know what
So
it is when I post your podcast. I'll post it up there.
yeah, that'd
So,
be great. That'd
as
be great.
people come and watch or listen over time, they can check
But
out
yeah,
what
but
you
yeah,
need.
certainly, the number one channel right now for us is our website, in
Yeah.
places that we don't have it in retail. And then also the great thing too is if you go to our website and you go to our store finder, we have an awesome little feature on there. I don't know if you've heard of this called We Stock. It's a
Mhm.
company where, they basically like anybody that comes to our website, they don't see like their favorite store or their product's not at that store that they shop at. They can go on there and they can request. They could be like, hey, like, I want to see you at, the Central Market store down the street from me in Dallas,
That
or I
is
want to see
cool.
you at, the Public store in Florida, or whatever it is. And then it's
Mhm.
really helpful for us because then when we go to, buyer meetings and, category resets, we can take that data to them and say, hey, like, we've had 300 people say that they want to be at Publix, and specifically 30 of them were at this store and 40 of them were at that store, and then it kind of helps us to tell that
Yeah.
story of there's people actually out there that want to see our products at
Right.
at your location.
So what is your website for everybody to go to?
Yeah, it's altitudebev.com. So altitude BEV as in like beverage
Okay.
.com.
And what's an email, or what's a good way to get a hold of you guys?
Yeah, the simplest way is hello@altitudebev.com.
Okay.
That's our our general email that we all monitor, all of us on the team.
Great. So how many people are you now?
So we're 4 full-time people, so we're still a small, scrappy
Yeah,
team.
that's great though.
But yeah, we're slowly growing. With this distributor announcement, we're going to be adding 2 new members to the team this year, and then at any given time, we've
Okay.
got about.
How have you how have you found your the best way to market your products via your website? Like what has been kind of a game changer for you in that way?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, at this point for us, it's like it's partner marketing, right? And so it's doing like, events, it's doing partnerships with, I mean, some of it's like influencers, affiliate marketing, but like especially in this space at our scale, the number one thing for us is getting people to try it, right? It's just that
Yeah,
trial.
trial.
Especially in a it's a little bit different between the lattes and the alcohol alternatives. The lattes, it's definitely much more like you need to try it, whereas the alcohol alternatives, there's enough like people interested in this space, right? Like people who are like, I'm looking for things that are non-alcoholic that are, either going to give me a feeling or give me the look of like I'm drinking alcohol or the flavor.
Mhm.
So a little bit different between those two, but I would say number one is just it's getting out there and partnering with people, whether that's events, whether that's affiliates, whether that's influencers. Because for us right now, like doing like Instagram and Facebook ads, it's so expensive, and to try to
Yeah.
chase a return on ad spend that's positive for shipping beverage is always pretty hard.
Yeah. I can see
Um,
that.
yeah, plus for us right now, it's like we're more focused on getting those retail outlets, kind of getting the critical mass, because if we go and spend a bunch of money on trying to get awareness of our product someplace and people don't have a place to go and buy it right away other than our
Yeah.
website, like you're kind of you're wasting dollars a little bit.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, well, is there anything else we haven't talked about that you want to
No, I
tell
mean, I think this is
the
an awesome
audience?
opportunity to do a deep dive. Usually when we do these things, it's like 10 minutes or less, so
Oh no, this is like, take all the time you need. It's fun.
yeah, yeah, no,
So
absolutely, no, this is fun.
what is one thing that about you that no one typically knows about Thomas?
Ooh,
It can be simple as a movie or a favorite actor, or, oh, somewhere you've traveled that's kind of different than everybody else, or
yeah, that's hard. That's hard. I mean, I would say,
I mean, you
it just
speak
depends on how much
Chinese,
you.
so
Yeah,
that's
but it depends
cool.
on how much you know me, right? Like, yeah, I mean, obviously, like, not a lot of people know that I'm, Colombian, speak Spanish,
No, I
because,
did not know that.
because I'm also half, American, right? So
No
some
hablas
people look at me and
español.
they just see American. Sí, hablas español? Qué
That's all
bien.
I got. I'll have people come back
um,
to me and start speak. No, you really do speak Spanish. I'm like, no, I really don't. That's all I know.
no,
Anyway, go ahead.
but if you split your time between Florida and Texas, by this point, you have to be fluent.
I
Come
know.
on.
It's a shame. It's really a shame. You're right.
But yeah, no, I mean, I think, I don't know. I'm a pretty open book. I, you know, I usually don't try to have things where it's like keep an ace up my sleeve kind of situation. I think just be authentically you, and I don't know. It's a hard question. It's always one of those things,
Okay, I
right?
know.
Where it's
It
like
is kind of hard. Okay, so how about what's your favorite movie then? We'll
ooh,
go meet.
favorite movie. I'm a big
Or
movie guy.
what series
So
are you watching these days that's fun?
Um,
You're too
so
busy. You don't have time.
no, 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 it's fine. It's fine. This is the funny part now for us because it's like usually we put things on to kind of fall asleep, and we've been watching this series lately on Netflix, and I'm trying to remember the actual name of it. It's like snack something like Snack Attack, and it's actually the most fascinating series. It's like they get all these like really like professional like chefs and like food scientists, and they have to recreate like traditional like snack foods. So it'll be like Pringles or Twix
Huh.
or
I have not
Oreos
heard
or
of
whatever
this.
it is. And like they have like an hour and a half and they have to like, make their most like accurate replication, recreation of the snack foods. And then the second round, they have to like create their own invention. So as like a food and bev entrepreneur, it's such a fascinating thing to watch because one, it's about like seeing how difficult it is to mass produce these things that people
Right.
love, and then the second piece of it is to see the creativity of these people go out and try to hit on those themes. So like the one that we watched as we were falling asleep last night was about Kit Kats. So the second challenge was you have to create something that's shareable. Like you could share up to with four people. And it's just fascinating to see how where they're going with it. Right? Do they go sweet? Do they go savory? Do they go
And
more
they
about
can
the
use
function?
whatever ingredients they want. Huh.
Whatever ingredients they want.
Interesting. That sounds fun. Have you seen Is It Cake?
Yeah, we've seen
That
that.
reminds me of Is It Cake because they have to replicate like solo cups and you don't know if it's really solo cups or
Uh-huh.
cake. That is a sick show. I can't believe they can do all that. It's they're amazing.
Exactly. No, it's it's
People are
it's
so
definitely the
amazing.
same theme as that. Yeah. So if you get a chance, I'd check that out. Yeah, just like fun things like that, right? Because it's like I will admit, like Shark Tank used to be one of my favorite shows to watch until becoming an entrepreneur, and now anytime I watch Shark Tank, like it makes me so nervous because like I think about myself being in the shoes of
Right.
an
Yeah.
entrepreneur, and I'm like before, like when you don't have
Just
your
give
own
them the
company,
money.
you're
Just
like,
give them the money. They're good
yeah, and
people.
I'm like, oh my God, yeah. You're just like, oh, like I feel so bad for these people because you're like, I could be in those shoes and I know exactly how
Right.
they're feeling.
Oh, that's funny. I love that. Don't watch it anymore. Just don't watch it.
Yeah, yeah,
Watch Snack
exactly, yeah,
Attack.
exactly,
Stick with the food.
exactly. Lighthearted.
Well, this was awesome. I appreciate your time. I'm sure you've got plenty of things to do while you're up there and family to see, so I won't keep you any longer. But this has been so much fun. Thank you for taking us through your whole journey of life. I've never met anyone or had anyone on the show that did all the cool things you did at Boeing. That is super awesome. I'm so glad you got to experience all that with your wife, living abroad and all those things, and that you guys were able to create your own company and work together and get the same holidays off. That's great. These are delicious. I wish you the best of luck. If there's anything I can do to help you, please just let me know.
Thank you, Jesse. I really appreciate the time.
You bet. You got it. All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Produced by Fedora J Productions.